hello to the good people and to the bad. Bad people need love too.
When it comes to positivity, we all need it.
Great about people whose names are familiar to us now, like Isaiah Thomas.
Those things always work when it comes to putting out your best self.
God has blessed you with a beautiful voice, Chris. Thank you very much for doing this.
And again, hello to the good people and to the bad people, friends and enemies. And a hearty boom shakalaka to all of you out there. I am Chris Bass. And this is CBI-Chris Bass Interviews. We congregate every Wednesday. That's at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific time, always wanting you. That's right, you over there in the quarter in Cheetos, always wanting you to be well where you are. I love my job. And the reason I love my job, I get a chance to reconnect with people I've not talked to in a long time, and shame on me for not reconnecting sooner. This lady I've known for a long time, admired her work, and got a chance to be colleagues with her at Columbia College Chicago. Also, she's had worked at WFLD TV, also worked at V103, WVAZ FM, Oak Park, Chicago radio. Also produced for the Mutual Radio Network. I want to get her take on that because I love Mutual. When you had Larry King back in the day, so maybe she met Larry with all his suspenders and everything else. Also, she worked as program director at WIND. And so her resume is so long, I by the time I get winded in 15 minutes, I'll be tired. So that's why I'm going to bring her on now. Without any further ado, please welcome my friend and colleague and someone I've, again, admired and got a chance to know over the years, and I do say love. Please welcome to CBI, Cheryl Langston. Cheryl, how you doing?
Okay, it's a pleasure to join you this afternoon.
It's been a minute. It really has.
We have more gray hairs.
Well, yes, of course.
Some wisdom, though. It adds
some wisdom. You
right.
won't call it that. I'm not going to use midnight cocoa on my chin. I'm not going to, do the black brush thing.
On Mutual Radio Network, you basically just told everybody how old I must be, but that's fine.
But look, that's okay because, look, I mean, I guess they figure, look, his old ass has to know other old ass people. So it's just one of those things. I mean, it just is what it is.
Larry King was like 80 then, so yes, definitely.
Well, I think that with certain people take it as a compliment. But again, I'll just say this when we get on with the interview. This is when you know that you're old. So a while back, I voted, like most people. This was during Obama's second term. And the lady that worked at the voting office, she had to be like 97 then. She was a crypt keeper from Tales from the Crypt. And she called me a tenderoni. Now, I'm in my 40s, about to hit 50. If I'm a tenderoni, that means you're going on 97 to dust.
Right. Well, okay. You look good for your age. How about that?
I'll take what I can get. I mean, as long as I'm walking the earth and Kane Kung Fu, I'm doing pretty good.
Right.
But most importantly, how are you doing?
I am fine. I am kind of officially, I guess I can say I'm officially retired now. But still, doing some things on the side. But it's weird. I miss some of it, and some of it I don't miss. But I've become one of those, how old people sit in a lazy boy and just watch 87 hours of MSNBC or CNN, and then you just yell at the television set. So
yes.
I've turned into one of those.
Well, you're not alone in your assessment. So are you originally from here or you were born somewhere else? Where were you originally born at, Cheryl?
In Gary, Indiana.
Why are you saying like that? Are we ashamed?
Okay. Woohoo.
We'll say that again.
Gary, Indiana. Woohoo.
Woohoo. Okay. Okay. I can't with you. Okay. Anyway, so Gary, Indiana.
I mean, I'm in Philly. I worked in Pittsburgh for 6 years, and then for another 1 year, I worked in D.C. Well, really Virginia. So, but this is my home, and I'm so happy to come back here. So
now, when from Gary, now again, you go back a little bit. So what was your college? Where did you go to college at for education?
Bradley University, and then I went
Where, I'm
to
sorry?
Bradley University in Peoria.
Bradley. Mhm.
And I also went to Columbia College, like every person in media has gone to. So
Exactly. Exactly. So,
yeah, I'm
uh,
proud. The Columbia
oh,
was fantastic, especially back in those days. Oh my God, headed by the late great Al Parker. So you know, the man was responsible for so many careers, including mine. So
yeah, and same here. When you were there at Columbia College, now Columbia College Chicago, what was that experience like for you at Columbia when you were going there as a student?
it was just different. It was not as academic as Bradley, but you know, you could actually like touch equipment and actually practice your trade instead of reading about it in a book, which is, you know, I think that there's some validity to that, but you know, you kind of have to go and actually do it to get it. And that was like really exciting to me. I did work briefly at a college radio station in Peoria. Actually, another woman in our business, Cheryl Corley,
Mm.
who works at BEZ, or I guess she's at NPR. Well, she'll kill me for this, but she was the one that kind of, you know, went, hey, you know, I'm doing this radio thing. You want to, you know, come over and see, you know, and get involved. All I remember it was like a classical music format or something. So you know, I screwed up every name that's ever, you know, been created. But it sounded good. Here's Tchaikovsky in B minor. So, um, but I've never been, you know, you have to learn what you're good at and learn what you're not good at. And that's what I loved about Columbia. They were very candid. I've
Mhm.
always been kind of a behind the scenes person. I never really sounded great on the air, even though everybody in the world, I don't care what anybody says, everybody wants to do on air. There's a little bit of that in everybody. You know, it's kind of like being an actor. Um, you know, but after a while, I went, God, I sound so bad and so flat. I know what I want to sound like, but it just wasn't happening. So, I mean, I would
Well,
sit there and listen to, you know, Yvonne Daniels for
oh
1,000 hours
yeah.
and try to copy and just didn't work. So,
Well, you know how it is. I mean, of course, radio sound wise and voices, that's the first draw that draws you in the first place. So, yes, a lot of people want to, I don't want to be on air, but yes, like you said, for a little bit, they want to be on
just
air and they
ham
get,
everybody. Yes.
oh, yeah, they get behind the scenes to do their thing, whether it's sales or PR or whatever the case. But that sound immediately, when you first heard, no matter how old you were, was the first draw introduction to it. And then you
Right.
just go from there. Why radio for you? I mean, everybody got their stories of why they're drawn to radio. For
My,
you,
gra-
why?
my grandfather, I was kind of a dork in the basement, you know, listening between, you know, listening to VON and Butterball and get this, and Howard Miller. That just shows
Mm.
messed up I am. You talk about mixed signals. Um, you know, I mean, I would still listen to talk radio with my grandfather. So that's how I was introduced. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So
It was magic. I mean, it really was magic coming out of that speaker or box or even transistor radio and stuff like that. It's funny because now everybody, of course, can have the earless, I'm sorry, earless, but a wireless and earbuds. Before that, you had
right,
those transistor radios with the plug in it, and
right.
it kind of like graduated from there. So the magic that came out of the radio was fantastic.
All the things that all radio ham people do, you know, go in the bathroom and record yourself so you have the echo thing going, which always sounded so cool. You
Yeah.
know, I remember begging my mom for a Mr. Microphone. I had the Radio Shack cassette player, you know, where
Mhm.
I would record, you know, stuff off of, I'm about to really tell my WGRT. Um, but you know, it was always very magic to me.
Yeah.
And I never really completely understood the whole, God, how can, you know, how can they like, you know, segue from one music, from one song to another? I never really, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So now, you know, they have computers that mix for them. So,
It's amazing. Let's go out to the comment section real quick, the peanut gallery. See what
okay.
people have to say. So let's see here. So shout out to hello Wanda Powell. Wanda Powell is a great person. I'm working with her on the side.
Oh,
She has a program on cable channel 19, and I'm working with her. And she was one of my former students at Illinois Media School. So Wanda, thank you for being here. Go out to Jeff, just out on the West Coast, the Bay Area. Said any day you can still walk the path. You're young in my book. Well, that's very kind of you. I have no more money to give, but I thank you so much for the comment. Thank you, Jed. Jed's good people. And of course, hello, King Omar. Hello, King Bates. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to you as well. Thank you all for being here and go spread the word about the program. Also, I'm going to call in and speak to my guest. The phone number is there on the bottom of the ticker there, 312-597-2106. Again, that's 312-597-2106. Once again, Columbia College Chicago, our alma mater. Tell us for people who may not know, or probably do not know, the power of Al Parker, who started the radio department himself, and then just again, you said earlier in the conversation, responsible for a lot of our radio careers. Tell us about Al Parker.
Well, anybody that works in media, first of all. But for my personal experience was, I took some classes, sat down. He always would take time with anybody. And I think, well, his gift was to make you feel special, like you could really do this. And he set me up with an interview. And well, first of all, how cool was it that he worked at WLS TV and you could actually go into the booth where he was an announcer. And for people who don't know him, he also announced for the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Correct.
But he was the voice that you would hear at the top of the hour saying, "This is WLS Chicago," and trillions of commercials. But he would, sit there, and I remember going, "This is like awesome." I could go, I felt big time walking to WLS TV, and he sat there and gave me a couple leads, and helped me with my resume and the whole nine. And my it was an internship. The first place I interned was at WLS TV, which again, completely cool. I thought the green room was the coolest thing in the world. And they hired me to do a couple little things that summer, like, work the Puerto Rican Day Parade or whatever. All I remember is I didn't even want to cash the check because it's like, well, I have a check like that says WLS TV, and finally I got broke and I cashed it. But he made a couple of calls. To make a long story short, I interned there, and then that fall I went to WIND when it was talk radio, not real conservative talk radio, but it was a talk radio station, and a woman program manager who I also owe a lot to by the name of Susan Eggleton hired me. So I began like in the weekends, like all the hours, and you do whatever you have to do. And then an awesome gentleman by the name of Steve King, who actually still works at WLS, at WGN, forgive me if he hears this. He and his wife, Johnny Putnam, he kind of took me under his wing and, just taught me all the nuances of talk radio. And it was cool because it was an overnight show. Steve was young. He was kind of one of the younger dudes there. He was the coolest in the world. He was a musician. He had contacts. We had very cool guests, and that was kind of like how I got started with all of it. And then, at one point in time, they sold WIND. They went Spanish. And then I was blessed enough to start working at KDKA, the world's first radio station. That was incredible. And I'm not really sure if they've ever had another woman as a program manager there. I know I was the first Black person there, though.
Oh, yeah.
It was, I always say KDK to me was the whitest radio station I've ever seen. I think they were kind of freaked out, like, oh my God, this Black woman from Chicago's coming. Oh Lord, we're going urban.
Oh my God, I gotta start wearing a couple like Larry Blackman and Cameo. I gotta get a high top fade.
But it was wonderful. I got, I kind of fit in. At the time, the general manager, a brilliant programmer who was the general manager at several stations by the name of Rick Starr, had a lot of faith in me and hired me. So, and I was
so cool.
I probably should have stayed, but I really wanted to come back to Chicago. I really did. 6 years it was a wonderful station. They had huge ratings. I mean, I have never seen something where like a third of the entire market listens to your radio station. I mean, it was like everything they did was like a national holiday there. It was I wasn't used to that. I would just look at ratings books and go, that how? But, after 6 years, I needed something. I needed a new adventure, and so then I came back here,
Mhm.
and it's open, and the rest is history. So
Now, your time at KDKA in Pittsburgh, were you hired as the program director, or you had to work your way up in the
I
company?
was ops manager because Chris Whitting was there as a program, and then I was hired as a program manager. I got to program manager.
Man, that's huge.
That Yes, I know. It kind of freaked me out. It was like, and I mean, this was again kind of the mothership,
Yes.
you um, and it was the big McGill in the market. All the sports, teams, everything. The morning
Mhm.
guy was like, I would just, if you walk down the street with him, people were just like, oh, it was like, he was like a celebrity. It
Yes.
was huge, but it was, I learned so much, and I had a really good time. It was a great station. It really was.
Yeah, 6 years a good run. And back out to the peanut gallery. Say hello to Misty Campbell. Misty, another broadcaster on the right, another former student of mine when I was at WKKC when I was news director. So great to see these people do their thing and continue their thing. She says, a great interview. Thank you, Misty.
I
That's
miss,
very kind of you. Yeah, that's very cool.
yep.
Let's see. Shout out to Sig Diggy. Says, great greetings, folks. Sig is coming out of Norway
Really?
to be a part of. Yeah, Norway. So
You have any openings here? No.
you can't say this show doesn't suck.
Word up.
There you go. Right. So yeah, word up. Right. Yeah, you can tell the fear in their faces. It's like fear of a black panther. Here comes Cheryl as the fear of a black woman
Hey,
coming into KDKA.
I can handle it.
Oh, I know you can. Absolutely. So your 6 years at KDKA was great. You come back to Chicago. So when you come back home to Chicago, where were you working at?
I was part of a 3-man team at WMAQ that started all news operation, which was wild. That was bizarre. I mean, I think we had like 60 days to like get everybody in place and hire people, and it was nuts. We were interviewing people in our cars, and I think I gained about 1,000 pounds just with that 2-month hiatus, because we were eating like cheesecake and at 2 and 3 in the morning looking at
Oh
resumes.
yeah.
And then Rob Feeder put it in the paper. So everybody, I mean, everybody sent resumes, and people were sneaking too, people that were already working someplace else. I mean, so we held these, auditions with, 15, 20 people every single day because we only had 2 months, but that was wild. And then the wilder part was to take on a radio station that had a 25-year, advantage, because we took on WBBM. Obviously, we didn't win, but it was fun trying to. And plus, at the time, to be honest, Westinghouse had that checkbook was open. I mean, I remember going to a car dealership and went, "Hi, I'd like to buy 6 cars." That ain't gonna never happen unless I win the lottery. So, I mean, they invested a lot of money into it. It was just very tough to do. I remember when we did a focus group, we parked the news car outside the place, and when we started talking to the people in the focus group, they went, "Oh, I saw WBBM's news car outside," and we were just like, "You can't win." Now, the only thing is we did have I call it the alleged Persian Gulf War, but we did have the Gulf War, and it was Rick Starr actually who came from Pittsburgh to Chicago, and I want to give him credit for this. He went, we're going to become a CNN affiliate, and that's when CNN, basically, I mean, they carried the whole war, and that really helped, boost our ratings, obviously. But it's all news is very expensive, and it's really tough to do. It's 24/7, but it was a fantastic experience. I've never had that much fun in all my life. It was wonderful.
So how long were you at WMAQ?
Until it was no, I didn't stay until it was about 6 or 7 years.
It's another 6, 7 year run. Okay.
And then of course now they're the score.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And it was cool because also we had a great relationship with Channel 5.
Yes.
So, their anchors were coming upstairs to our newsroom and vice versa. And, again, it was a lot of, I really enjoyed it, even though people called me 70,000 times a night, but that's okay. It was just the startup. You could feel it. Everybody there
Yeah.
had energy, and, everybody was into it. They wanted to win so bad. But again, BBM still kicked their butt. So,
Oh, yeah. You said about 25-year advantage. I remember that like it was yesterday. Hello,
right.
and I'm going to Peanut Gallery again. And it's good afternoon, Chris and Miss Langston.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, see?
So,
They come out. I don't have anything to give away, but they're coming out, and I appreciate that. I can only give you a pat on the back and a
but
warm glow of victory. So that's all I got for you. So
for something, right?
right.
So,
As we say, we're building something here. So as soon as I get some cachet, I can start giving out mugs and stuff like that.
right,
But I'm working on that.
right.
So your 6-7 year run at MAQ, and so once again, I can hear in your voice reliving it. The word that's come out the most is fun,
It was
and you can't put a price tag on fun.
no, because I know you have what I have. It's the passion. It's the passion. It's you don't even, well, I shouldn't say you don't completely care that you're being woken up at 2 and 3 in the morning a couple times. If you have any kind of social life, you can forget that. But
That's
I get
out the
up,
window.
right. You work bad hours, you eat bad food, drink bad coffee, but it's still a blast. So,
Yes.
you know,
It's that magic we talked about. You can't. It's one of those things that I've always said about me and radio. So as a kid listening to radio, it's like the original Wizard of Oz, and you go from black and white, and then you get into radio becomes color. When you actually get into radio, it's that transitional period to go from listener to inside the business. So,
and to even work with the people that I used to listen to on the radio.
oh my God, that's
The
beautiful.
first person I remember outside of Steve was I met Clark Weber, who was the morning guy, and I'm like, it's like Clark Weber, like wow, I mean, between Steve and Dave Baum was another one. Oh my God, it was wonderful, and I learned so much from him. Um, and let's be honest, I mean, it was a different kind of media as well.
It was.
You worked at WLS, so you know what I'm saying. But
Mhm.
I need, even though I came from Gary, I'm a girl from Gary, Indiana. Okay, which I'm gonna be proud of now. There were, I had never. There were things that you might read about in a book, but it's like, wow, we're producing shows now about this. I was thinking about that now. What's going on in Israel? You know, outside of what I read in a book, I never booked guests or, really, researched those kind of topics. And
Mhm.
it was amazing. And when I think back of some of the guests that used to call, well, Eddie Schwartz also worked at WIND. But I mean, there were a lot of people that walked in and out of that place from, you know, Billy D. Williams. I remember Steve interviewed um, the Village People, the Pointer
Mhm.
Sisters, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, here's a kind of creepy thing. I remember like Bill Cosby calling. I think he was looking for Eddie Schwartz, but you know,
Mhm.
Dick Clark, all those kind of people. So it was something. I would just go, I can't believe I'm like seeing these people, or meeting them or whatever. So, my favorite was James Brown calling once.
Oh help.
A really bad imitation, but I'm not. So, and
Oh,
but
why not?
musician. So he had, he knew all these musicians, or it was fantastic. I never, who would think, a girl from Gary, Indiana, would sit here and, put together these kind of shows. It was awesome. So
It is cool. Again, you talk about the magic, the fact that we had the desire, the drive to be a part of it, and to again work with people you said before you listen to. All of a sudden, you're working with them. Like with me,
right,
um, I got a chance to meet and became a good friend of mine, Doug Banks. So this is when Doug was signed on to ABC Radio Networks, and so Doug would come in and sometimes do the show from our studios next door in the production room. And so get the satellite feed. He would do it from there. At the time, he was also doing 190 North for ABC 7 with Janet Davies.
I
So he
remember.
would come in from Dallas, fly in, We chit chat for a while. Blind as a bat. Blind as a bat. I love Doug. My God rest his soul. We couldn't see a damn thing. So I remember I would give him the newspapers, right? And so he do like this. Literally. I'm like, dude, you want my glasses? No, I'm all right, guy. I'm all right. Don't worry about it. And he couldn't see a shit. But, but when he actually tried to watch or look at these articles in the Sun-Times and Tribune, and he would go in there, rip the headlines, and just go. And that's what I loved about radio. I work with these hosts in particular, if I was producing, they would just go in there and just do it.
Right. I remember, I just thought about this. I interviewed with Tom Joyner for a show, it was an Ebony Showcase. It had a very short run.
Ebony Just Celebrity Showcase. I remember that.
Right. I did interview with him. Obviously, I didn't get the gig, but I worked at WJJD for 2 weeks. Actually, it was Clark Weber that got me in there when Clark went over to JJD. And again, it kind of freaks me out when I think about some of these places or things I never would have thought. Now, WJJD, I'm sorry, was old people radio.
It was. It was. It was like not old people radio. It was like The Walking Dead. By that point, it's like not. Some people used to go like WGN would say like 55 to dead.
Right.
This is like dust. This is like you go to Earth and go dust to earth to earth, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. That was that type of radio station. You had to be revived from water just to have a pulse.
Hey, it was a gig. And you know what? Anything that pertained to radio, I bet you didn't know this. I actually did a fill-in once at WLS.
I didn't know that.
Oh, God, I struggled. It was so bleak. It was a Sunday night coming out of the Bruce Dumont show. So right in there, like what, 4 people listening?
Yeah, it's that.
It was a Sunday overnight. And I mean, the first hour was kind of okay. And not unfortunately, but that morning I had worked at V103 on Sunday Morning Live. So I never went back to sleep. And usually for that show, I would get up at 3 a.m. And the second hour, I think I had 1 call. And the next 2 hours, I literally read the New York Times. I mean, Section 5, op-ed. It was bleak. No calls. And then, LS was very regimented about their breaks. So it's not like you could take, tons of commercial breaks. You take them when, it's logged. That was that must have been the most difficult couple hours I've ever done in my entire life. I mean, that's when you start coming up with just ridiculous topics. I call it the Mort Downey School of Broadcasting, where it's just like, okay, for $100, would you, kiss a roach? I mean, anything to try to get a phone call. It was like a bad Saturday Night Live skit. So. Oh
man, I feel you on that. I used to.
So
sorry, say that again.
They never called me back, so obviously, it was a good thing we just parted.
Yeah, I feel you on this. Well, my time back at LS when I was producing before I went on air, you produced these people because then operations manager Drew Hayes had this brilliant idea. I do use the word brilliant with air quotations about turning FM jocks into talk show hosts. Like he's a mad scientist or some shit. So I had to work with these people. And I would tell them, look, there's no music. You got to talk all the way through. And so I remember working with one dude, and we take the break at 30, and he's like, hey, man, how come nobody's calling? I told you before the show that the listeners need to listen to you and find out who you are, where you stand, and everything else. And then they will call in on their own. If they don't call in, they still got to talk. Yeah, but nobody's calling. I see. Don't do that. Just keep on doing your thing, and you'll be fine. And the worst was when I worked with Jimmy Walker. I mean, JJ from Good Times.
Get out! Really?
I can't take that. No, that hurt my soul because I'll just say this real quick, and of course get back to you. But I'm just saying that's the struggles of trying to work with somebody. So this is when Jimmy Walker was trying to reinvent himself as a talk show host
or something. I mean, that's bizarre.
Right. It was bizarre. So he's trying to get some material from coast to coast. He had just came back from Texas, somewhere like San Antonio, what the hell. And he comes to Chicago to fill in for Catherine Johns, of all people. at the time from 6 to 10, and he wants to reinvent himself. I'm talking to him in the green room. I got to produce his yes. So he's like, oh, yeah, I just want to try to reinvent myself and everything else. I said, all right, sir. So this is what you got to do. You know the topics, hit your mark, your stance, and then we'll go from there. And just don't the phone calls, don't worry about that. Just go on and talk. So he did that, and like the other dude, 6:30 break. How come anybody ain't calling? I wanted to say, I told you, black ass, but I couldn't say that. I told your ass back at the green room, don't worry about it. And so by the time 7 o'clock hit and we got out of the news and the news break, 7:06, on the mic, dynamite!
You can only do that so many times.
I could have quit. I could have quit.
When you're new to a talk show, it freaks you out when you don't have a phone call. And then you do exactly what you're not supposed to do. Just start throwing out everything. Start coming up with anything. Okay, call me now if you have a blue pencil. I mean, you're so because what happens is the phone calls become your program. And again, it does take a certain kind of person to feel. After that experience, I was just like, I don't think I can do this. Now, I can identify, I can recognize, and I like to pride myself in saying I can make a damn good talk show host. I've worked with them. I know how to do it. I know how to make them really good. Or I like to call it, I can make a star. That's my thing. I'm just not great on the air. I did Sunday Morning Live with an experienced broadcaster like you with Derek Hill. Well, Derek's been working in, radio forever. And he also had a great voice, so all the women would listen to him and stuff. But I'm okay with someone else. But if it's just me solo, it's very difficult, even with the guests. And then I think also the last time I actually did a talk show, God bless this poor woman, Eartha Kitt. I had Eartha Kitt on telephone interview, and it was one of the most difficult interviews I've ever done. I mean, there was the pregnant pauses, the yes, no's. I mean, to the point it's like, hello, are you still there? It's like, so sometimes even and a lot of times too, again, for people who've done talk radio, you use a guest as a crutch. So you might keep, the lady who collects buttons on for 2.5 hours because you don't have any phone calls. And I don't know what but after about 15 minutes, that interview's gone. So now tell me about your button collection. Do you have red ones? So I've been there as well. So, and I've also worked with a lot of new hosts too, freak out.
So for you, because you've done it, and again, like you said before, if I'm with somebody with a partner I could talk to, then I'm good solo, I'm not so good. Name some hosts that you saw and heard that were just dynamic what they did on talk radio?
Dave Baum, definitely. It's fantastic. Steve King. Steve and Johnny they're very warm people. If you want to invite them to your house, when you listen to them. I tend to like the kick-ass, boom, 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 in your face style hosts. The ones that don't pretend. If you're pretending, it's obvious. The audience is turned off. And I'm not saying I really like rude, but I like edgy. Jay Marvin. I thought he was outstanding. I would have loved to have worked with someone like a Jay Marvin. Just really, really good. I think Richard Steele is a fantastic. I always would have loved to have worked with somebody like a Richard Steele. Again, a lot of these people are gone, and most of them were in Pittsburgh. But there's also a tendency for there need to be more women. I remember at the time we had talked about Bev Smith when I was at KDKA. It didn't, it never really happened. But there's still kind of that stigma. If a woman's doing talk, she comes across as a bitch if you're hard ass. And if not,
yeah, but true.
Yeah, and if you're talking about, eye pencils, then it's like, oh, isn't that nice? So it's always been a struggle as far as I'm concerned for women in talk, always.
Right. Let's go back out to I'm sorry, go ahead.
Talking about, leg waxing for 2 hours. So
yeah, it's that damn stereotype that you try to shake, but unfortunately just have these Cro-Magnon people who want to again, I hate to say it, keep them barefoot and pregnant, give them something to do, and that type of mentality, which leads to nowhere. Real quick, go back out to the comment section, to the peanut gallery. Jess said earlier we talk about old people, the moldy oldies. So yeah, got that right. Shout out to my man Ken Wellington, says hello, Professor Bass, and to Miss Langston. So it's hello, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
So let me get into this. So when did you come back as an instructor at Columbia College Chicago?
Well, I had just got married. I got married for, I was one of those that got married late. At some point in time, my husband was giving me the look like, it's 2:40 in the morning. Where the hell are you going? And I'm like, work. And I think what really kind of tipped it out. I wanted a family. And it's when he came and saw me laying on the floor in my office. It was during the Saddam Hussein era. So, I had spent the night at work for, I don't know, a couple of days. That at that point, I went, okay, you had to start prioritizing. You sacrificed all this time, your life, and it's time to think about a family. So that's when I made the decision. Al attempted me 1,000 times. Al Parker, we'll be ready. Let me know. Blah 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 blah. And I went, you know what? I think I'm ready. And so I made the decision. I was terrified to make that decision as well. But, I think it was a really good, I was at that point in time in life when, you need to take the plunge. So there's something about Columbia that always makes me come back. Technically, I left Columbia for 2 days. I probably shouldn't say this, but what the heck. I took the airport spokesperson job.
You did?
Yeah, I would have been dead by now. What a
right,
right. That is. Oh my God! And at the time, Meg's was still around, so I already smelled. I went, wait a minute, they're giving me a car. This is like us. And then I went, oh no, that means I'm going from O'Hare to Midway to Meg's. That's you talk about being up at 2 or 3 in the morning. That's somebody from CLTV calling you for standbys. That's a really hard gig. It really is.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's O'Hare, one of the largest airports in the world. So it's everybody calling you for a react or some problem or it's the BBC, it's Canadian broadcast. And after 2 days, I went and I came back.
I don't blame you a bit.
Back. So.
But that's cool. You got a chance to come back. Now, what people don't know is that the reason why Cheryl and I are so close is because of the fact that, once again, we were colleagues and instructors at Columbia College Chicago. Plus the fact that the both of us were tapped to rewrite the talk radio curriculum there in the radio department. So always wanted to ask you this. So when did you get the word on your end about the talk radio curriculum?
Kind of when I first got there, but at the time I really wanted to concentrate on news, because Columbia has a journalism department, but they didn't have anything along the lines of broadcast journalism, and the only thing they had kind of going was in the television department. And I'm like, hello, you have WBBM, they're all news stations across the country, so that was kind of my focus for like the first 2 or 3 years. Actually, I got them to spend some money. I had them put in Associated Press, Wire, the broadcast, the audio service, because one thing I like about Columbia has always been, again, real life. I don't do pretend radio stuff. I never wanted to do it. And so that was my big focus. And they had never done like election night coverage, that kind of thing. And that was the first thing I did. Those poor students, they're probably still shell-shocked, but I had them running around, coming up with coverage. And it's something so rewarding to hear young people. You're like, hi, I'm going to cover so-and-so at the, so-and-so headquarters. And I think for 4 elections, 5, I made them do 5 hours of live wall-to-wall coverage with guests. Okay? And I would just get friends in the business, have them call up. They had like real guests, real coverage. It was awesome. I was very proud of that. And I think the coolest thing is I got them in Grant Park sitting with elite media when Obama was
Mm.
there. You know, they were all but eating shrimp with Anderson Cooper. Um, you know, I mean, what an experience. So again, that's the beauty at the time of Columbia. I mean, we had Red Motlow, the great sportscaster there, who took those kids back, you know, to the locker room when Michael Jordan was there. You know, Cheryl Ray Stout, you know,
Yeah.
was teaching there, taking them to games and that kind of thing. So, and that's when I went, okay, have the news and sports. And that's the other thing. Sports was another one. So I had started
Right.
this thing with UIC where they would go to games and the two students combined would do live broadcasts. And then that's when I went, talk radio, talk radio. So, and I think you were teaching like a control board class or something. And
Correct.
so
Yeah.
I thought, this is so cool. Two African Americans talk radio. Hello. Doesn't get any
That
better
was
than that.
it was huge. Now, see, on my end, Jay Marvin was teaching that course for the fall and spring, and I saw him outside of Columbia. And this, I got finished with the spring semester, and I asked him how the class was going. He said, "Well, I don't really want to go and teach anymore. I don't really have the heart for it." It was a very popular class, I mean, the year he was there, but
Yep.
he didn't want to do it anymore. And he said, "Look, I got to talk to Barbara, meaning Barbara Calabrese, the chairperson of the department, of radio department." He said, "Well, look, I'll name drop you. You know, you want to take over the class or do whatever." And I said, "Cool." And that was my introduction to the whole thing. And that's how we met, because Barbara and I, Barbara, you and myself, we were able to talk over, and her idea was for us to rewrite the curriculum and, of course, teach it together. And that was, like I said before, two African Americans, first of all, rewrite the curriculum. I don't know about you, but I won't name any names, but they can go back to hell. They were hating on me because I just got there maybe like 2 years into it. I've been there a total of 4 to 5, but they were hating on me because I was tapped to rewrite the curriculum. It's like I didn't ask for it. You know, and some people have been there since the building had been erected.
But I mean, we were two non-academics. But the irony, but the weird thing is I wrote so much of that curriculum there. Because my thing when I got there again is, you know, some of that stuff needed to be updated. And
Yes.
people, you know, and with the help of people like Tony Kwasinski, you know, who's just a brilliant production dude, Matt
Tony
Cunningham,
K, yeah.
Public Radio, Carlos Mendez came from Telemundo. So when you had those kind of people, you had this mix of folks. You know, we just wanted to bring stuff up to date, and we did. You know, and I think that's the best part. The other thing is you can't do talk radio without doing it, and I think that was where we were
Thank you.
both coming from. Again, no pretend. We cannot do pretend broadcast here. So. But it was a blast. But I think the best experience I ever had, and again, sometimes naivete is a good thing, is okay, people, this is two African Americans took a class of, I'd say about 85% white. We took these students to a Sean Hannity broadcast, a live remote. It's like, I really think they thought we were the help when we first got there. Or they
no pie eating.
Maybe they thought we kidnapped these poor students or something.
Yeah. The looks were priceless.
Use your imagination, and I want you to really think about who might be in that audience. Sean Hannity. And he was debuting like a new book or something. Once he was hawking a new book or something and doing a show. And here, Chris and I walk in with like 12 white kids. I mean, I felt like the Red Sea parted.
Yes.
That had to have been, and I think the part that pissed me off the most is he could have acknowledged it. You know, he could have said, "Hey, there's a talk radio class here, blah 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 blah," but he never did. I just think
I didn't expect him to, because, you know, Sean obviously, you know, it was all about him, and it didn't matter about everybody, just as long as the asses had seats in it at the time. So that's all he cared about. What I liked also about that, the cool thing about that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I mean, you know, I could just see a different type of talk show host would have definitely thought that was very cool. So whatever.
Oh, first of all, it was a great experience. I remember I went to my second operations manager, Mike Elder, and I told Mike, of course, I was teaching the course with you, and could we get some, free seats for the students? And he was like, not a problem. And so we got a chance to do that for the students, and it was a wonderful thing. And Jay showed up because, of course, the lineup of WLS at the time showed up for the remote. So it was Don Wade and Roma in the restroom, and Jay was great. Jay lit into, Sean Hannity like 90 going north. And he was giving him the business because Jay was the vet. Jay had been around for years, and he was gonna let some upstart like Sean Hannity get the best of him. That to me again is like the essence of the purity of talk radio. It was glorious.
Right. I don't know why it just, again, I knew who he was and the whole nine, and he was kind of a quote rising star, at least in his mind. Yeah. But again, just the look from all the other audience types, and it was definitely how do I put this? I'm going to be nice. A lot of quote housewives, a lot of Naperville, North Shore mamas up in there, and they were just kind of appalled. But it was still awesome. That was
cool.
It was very cool.
Real quick, back out to the peanut gallery. So Jed types, the fact that there is no manual, you both created the curriculum needed to fix the solution, respect. His same father had to write teacher syllabus to keep up with the antiquated system. You deserve accolades. That's very kind of you, Jed. Thank you so much for that. That was very cool indeed.
And we went toe to toe with it, and what was the coolest thing is to see what students would come up with for topics.
Yes.
And again, I just love seeing young people get involved with things like that. And I mean, they were coming up with like really heavy stuff. I was just like, whoa,
Impressive. They were they were into it. Real quick, one of our former students says, Jamie Martinez, what's up, man? Now he's out there in Phoenix, Arizona doing radio. I love you both, Chris Bass and Cheryl Langston, two of my college professors that helped guide my radio career. And he also types, thank you both. Jamie, cool. You're cool beans, man.
Yeah. I am going to send you a check, right?
I know, right?
He was a talented guy. That's the other thing, too. When, again, that passion is there, it just makes our job so much easier. And they're still,
all the time.
I'm so proud of so many of the students that we worked with. I mean, they are like kicking butt. They have great careers, great jobs. It just warms my heart when I see what they're doing. And today's media is very, very different.
Yes, it is.
Kind of glad I'm not doing. I don't know if I could do it now. Maybe bias.
It's definitely changed. I don't know if it changed for the better, but it's changed nonetheless. And as you know firsthand, we've seen more and more conservatives on the radio side and TV side, and social media is inundated with them. And because they figure that's the formula to work. If they see the formula, they're going to copy it, and they've done it since the beginning of time.
I just there are things that just make me shake. Today, I won't even get into who it was. I'm watching, and they're talking to an Israeli, I think it was a spokesperson for their military. And it was like, well, can you describe what you're going to do to try to get the hostages out? I'm just like, what is wrong with you people? I mean, and we won't even get into the Trump stuff. Again, it's like a repeat of 2016. Let's give them as much airtime as possible. So I just don't think I can handle it.
We were talking on the phone before we did this yesterday, and it was so good to hear your voice reconnect. You have no idea. My whole heart is soaring just to be in your presence again. I realize how much I missed you. So we're going back and forth talking, and you said something interesting about, and I'm paraphrasing, about not having a mainstream African American talk host by this day and time. Could you elaborate on that more, please?
It's just, when Derek and I were at V103, I think at times it was like, well, you work for mainstream media. You don't know what it's like to work for black media, black radio. I had to correct them because it's like, excuse me, I can't even remember who owned it then, but whatever it was definitely not African American owned. But we're kind of stuck in this weird place here, where it's because I've heard white audio. I've heard white folks calling up different stations, and if it's a black talk show host, I can't remember his name in D.C. It's like, well, you're black, and it's like, okay, what? I can't talk about today's, what's going on or current events. But on the other hand, I felt sometimes when we were at V, we were kind of doing some radio shtick that we learned from mainstream media, and I felt like the audience really couldn't identify with it sometimes, and I thought maybe they thought we were being white. But yet I really kind of resent it. And, in all fairness, the general manager was cool. I mean, he never really, laid on us, but I always felt like, like you need to be a little more black, which it kind of pissed me off, because if I worked for white media, it would be the same thing. I've gotten that, I've interviewed Hispanic, particularly Hispanic women who would, come in, and I want them to sound like they're Hispanic. You don't have to sound like you're white. You're Hispanic. This is what's out in Chicago. You don't have to don't lose the accent. This is how you talk. And there's still that's where I'm going with this. It's amazing that, to me, radio, a medium where you can't see anybody, to me is still super discriminatory. Now think about it. Television, you can see people. You'll see black and white and Hispanic and Asian American, but with radio, it's still very black media. Oh, that's an urban station. That's a Tejano station. And that just really, that freaks me out. It really does. Again, 21st century. I think somebody would be terrified to hire an African American, let's say, at a mainstream white radio station.
Well, what's interesting, television-wise, here in Chicago, I have seen differences in hiring practices, because I've seen reporters, African-American brothers with braids and face on the side and everything else. So that right there is a change. More facial hair, because at one point you couldn't have facial hair. You had to shave it all off at one point. So there are strides.
Also have braids too. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So you do see changes here and there, and that's a good thing. But it needs to be more. So I know you got to start from somewhere, and you see those type of things on television, like you said before. Don't lose the accent.
Nuts. Yeah, don't lose that. That reflects what's in our city. I'm not asking you to sound like you're white, and I got that from a couple of Hispanic women that I had interviewed for jobs. Well, I thought you wanted me to sound like that. No, I'm not going to sound like I'm white. But I still think that radio, it still has that thing. I hate that. Oh, it's an urban radio station. So what's that supposed to mean?
Again, as you know firsthand, speaking to the choir, is to advertise with, is our identity factor and things like that. But again, growing up, for example, here in Chicago, with all the dynamic radio, it didn't matter who was black or white, because I listened to both sides of the dial, AM and FM, and they were both bringing it. They were bringing it and swinging it. It didn't matter if they were white, black, or anybody. As long as you had the talent, hit that microphone and put on a program, it didn't matter. I was drawn to the talent that I was listening to, so it didn't matter what race it was. I was just so happy to listen to them.
Yeah, me too. I mean, during the early days when I was still part-time at WIND, I can't even remember the call letters. I worked at some Polish station. I think it was like Broker Time or something, where XRT used to be, and nobody spoke English there. They were kind of freaked out when they saw me, but they were like, "Okay, you're cool." I just did the news or something in English at the top of the hour. I swear to you, I couldn't tell you what anybody said, but hey, it was I just wanted call letters put on the resume. So
amazing.
We still need to
real quick, go back to that.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, say that again. Yeah, you go ahead.
Come full circle. I still would like to. I want to see, and I know radio super segmented and all that crap, blah 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 blah. But let's go with the times here. So
I agree wholeheartedly. Once again, went back to Jamie. He says, "I work in a radio newsroom. I don't see any black or Hispanic people as anchors."
I believe that. And it's news. That's even, excuse
Yeah.
me, sports. I'm not talking about the sideline chick with the big
Right.
boobs and, I'm talking about, it's gotten somewhat better, but it used to be I used to be told on the side, I don't want to hear any women doing sports. I had a boss that once
Mm.
told or I don't want two women on the air. I used to hear that also.
See, I hate that.
No,
That hate get on my nerve.
nobody wants to hear that. Like what? It's they're not credible. That was a cardinal rule. But yet television always had, would always like I don't think I've ever had a problem. I can't even remember. I think even years ago I would see two female anchors doing the news. So
Hmm.
I don't know. And you wonder why radio's lost listenership and it's become so, not so relevant anymore. So
When did you personally became disenchanted with radio?
hmm, boy, that's a big one. Disenchanted.
Hmm.
A little with the V103 thing. That was my first time where, to be honest, I technically wasn't let go. Derek was. I just quit because they let him go. I'm sure they would have let me go at some point in time. That was my
Hmm.
first quote unquote firing. Um, and maybe fire is not the word. Laid off, which is so gentle. I was pissed because I thought we did a really good job. And we had guests that never would have been on V103, honestly. Um, but that was kind of a rude awakening. I was like, okay, whatever. And we never got to say goodbye to the audience because I decided not to go in that weekend. Um, and
Mm.
that
Now tell everybody again this time slot that you and Derek used to be on every 103.
we used to do Sunday. It was a show that's been around forever. The name of the show was Sunday Morning Live on V103. It started at 6 a.m. And V103 is a music station. I get all that. So to be honest, it was, in their mind, it was a bad public affairs show. And I don't like bad public affairs show. I'm not going to talk about the 7 warning signs of cancer every week. So it got political. We had a lot of political guests, that kind of thing. And we made news, and we let WMAQ use some of the audio from the guests that we had on their station. So it was very different for them. I mean, I applaud them for letting us do something different. Because public affairs shows are bad. Let's face it. It's like a FCC requirement. Here, put this on and, talk to somebody
Right.
about a 5K race next month. And we decided we wanted to do something different. So, and we did it for like 7 years. But, that one kind of hurt my feelings because I thought we were really serving the community and that was something that was entertaining. And you don't want to just say goodbye and not say goodbye to the audience. So.
Now again, another 7-year run working with Derek Hill and doing that show and making the difference, not doing a standard public affairs show.
Right.
What was the so-called reason they got rid of Derek? He said you were cool, but you incited, of course, with Derek and left. But what was the reason why they want to get rid of Derek Hill?
Of it was money, and also at that point in time he had taken a job as spokesperson for CHA, and that was when CHA was going through that whole plan for transformation.
I remember that.
Yeah, so that was kind of hot. And I do think at times they might have thought we were a little too controversial because there was nothing we wouldn't say or do. You know how you're kind of waiting to get in trouble? It's like, because I wanted to follow, in fact, that was the first time I met Obama, former President Obama, because he would call and, he's a talker and we talk a lot too. You could go into the coffee room, have a cup of coffee, a sweet roll, and he would still be going. So, he was guaranteed 45 minutes straight. So, he and Reverend Jackson as well. So, like, those were our favorites, our favorite guests. But we made a lot of news there. And also during that time, if you recall the Girl X story, the little girl that was left, that was beat up, raped, and almost left for dead. We did a lot of fundraising for her. So, we tried to do some things again that were different. And, I was proud of that show. different can be fun. And you know what? We kind of didn't care. We were like, we're pushing the envelope, fire us. Well, they definitely would have. I think they were going to hold me out for a couple of weeks to, kind of
Yeah.
move over and then get rid of me too, which was fine.
Beat you to the punch. Now, I mentioned about the word disenchanted with, say, terrestrial radio. What would you do on your own, Cheryl, to keep that passion alive for communication and broadcasting? What would you do individually to keep that going?
About the magic. The lady calls because she's pissed off because she has potholes in front of her house, and radio can be magic. On the other end, you have the alderman on, and you get her to talk to the alderman. That's the kind of stuff that radio needs to do. That local stuff that really serves the community in which they're licensed. And the radio doesn't do that anymore. It's throwing out the format. Maybe you had something planned, but something else better comes along where you can help someone or have fun with someone, because radio can be fun as well. I mean, there was another guy by the name of Norman Mark who used to do this crazy, what's the best hot dog in Chicago? It sounds lightweight, but you know what? People were into that. And now I know on social media, I do a lot of that because I miss that. I would just ask silly questions. What cartoons did you used to watch on Saturday morning?
Same here.
That's the fun and that's the magic that you're always talking about. And that's what, if radio hopes to survive. Now I will say this, the last 15 years, they've been saying bye-bye to radio, terrestrial radio, and it's still around. But it's the local stuff that will always make it better, always. So I said if I ever got it, I would just, program it myself and do what I wanted. So
I like that. Yeah, that's and it's definitely needed. Cheryl, one last question.
Okay.
If you can invite 4 people to dinner, alive or not, who would they be and why?
See, folks, he had asked me something hard. Okay, Jesus would definitely be one. Because I really want to, I have a lot of questions for him. Probably my late husband. God, I need a talker. Derek is my best friend, so maybe somebody like Derek, because he and I had gotten to, how you get into that groove with a partner and you both kind of know what each other are thinking.
Yes.
And maybe I don't know. Boy,
So you have Jesus Christ. You have your husband. What was your husband's name?
Stanley.
Stanley. You have Stanley. Then you also have Derek Hill, your former radio partner. You got one more.
My best bud. I kind of want a newsmaker. Like Obama. That would be a hell of a dinner party.
Yes.
Wouldn't it?
That would be righteous.
Right. We'd probably still be going for about 3 days. Right.
Oh yeah, that's one of those things. You just gotta camp out.
Right.
you go be there for a little bit. Yeah, bring your jammies and you go be there for a little bit. Let's go comment section real quick. Lisa, how you doing, Lisa? Says great interview, 2 great radio minds. Well, thank you, Lisa. It's very kind of you indeed. That's very cool. Lisa herself is a
kind of miss it today, folks. So I'm kind of missing it. So who knows?
Oh well, no. Well, hey, like I said before, I mean, I don't know my own name until 12 noon Central Time, so you got me pretty good today on my end as well. But thank you, Lisa, for the compliment. Lisa does a Quiet Storm program that she started on her own and have all these affiliates on the internet. So it's great to see radio people and people who, it's like we gather around like our own fraternity sorority type of thing.
She loves it. You can tell. Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie, I thought you'd be sick of me by now. And he still had to comment. So there is a love. It's kind of a nerd club, but it's a good nerd club.
It is. It is. I go along with that. Absolutely. For more information about you, Cheryl Langston, where could people find you at?
Complaining and watching. No, I'm teasing. Endless hours of no. I'm on. Old people love Facebook. So
Yes.
old people I do some Instagram, but I'm still doing Facebook, and now I refuse to use Twitter now that it's become X. Um,
X, yeah.
and it's Twitter's gotten so mean. I don't even want
It
to
has,
see that.
hasn't it?
The bots are out. The bots are out, and I just at some point in time, I do it just to kind of go, okay, they're trying to destroy the world tomorrow, so let me know. So because there'll be an event. But Facebook is always a lot of fun. I do put a lot of topics and that kind of thing. And I mean, we get into it, you all. I mean, we fuss and fight. I had to hold two of my Facebook friends down the other day. They were like, yeah. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, back it up, money.
and sometimes I like to start stuff, just like with talk radio. I
Yes.
know it makes them go crazy.
The old tricks of the trade. I love it. I love it. Cheryl Langston, this has been more than fun. You have to come back. And
I
even we'll
love
come back and talk about Trump or anybody else. So you have always open door policy. Come in and just rant. And did you have open door?
Well, once all the trials really get started, we're going to have to go there. Because something tells me we're going to be so appalled once all the dirt comes out that it's going to take hours for us to talk about it. So good
Absolutely,
luck,
man.
all your buds and all broadcast people. It's a beautiful thing. So good luck to everybody, and you too, Chris.
No, thank you. Yeah,
right.
and you too as well. So hold on. I'm going to talk to you after the show real quick. So hang on.
Okay.
And once again, this has been more than cool. So yeah, you're right. Real quick, we start getting all this Trump stuff. You have to take a bath in the shower just after watching it. You'll be so dirty. So it ain't gonna be fun. But make sure you have your safeguard soap and
insurrectionist. What are you talking about? Okay, let me not.
Okay.
Right.
Cheryl Langston, thanks so much. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Hang on right there.
Okay.
All right. The great Cheryl Langston. That was fun. And I said before on the program, we were talking yesterday, and I realized how much I missed her. This is somebody I worked with, someone I admired, I worked side by side with, and life goes on. Of course, you move forward, but then just to go back in time, sitting in her office, eating the wrong foods, which was always cool with me, putting in the curriculum and then teaching it. And real quick, we talked about that. We didn't talk about it during the interview, but we had some power guests that would come in during that time. Don Wayne and Roma from LS. We had sportscasters of the great Les Grobstein, God rest his soul, and others that were on there, and they were just dynamic. Dave Baum, the one that Cheryl mentioned, he came by. And so it was just so great to have these people come by, and the students were dynamic. Students were all in. And again, it was just a great time to teach, a great time to be in that element. Once again, thank you, Cheryl Langston, for being my guest. And thank you all out there for being a part of this. We congregate, of course, every Wednesday when we do this. And that's at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific time. So with those of you, get some sleep, get some rest. And make sure you join me on Saturday morning while I do Baseline. And that's at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Pacific time people, we don't worry about y'all. Y'all stay asleep because at 5 a.m., I want you to get up on my account. Just continue to call hogs and get some sleep, and you'll be just fine. Catch on the replay. But for the rest of you who want to be a part of Baseline, take the following out as we close. Continue to be safe, continue to be sound, continue to be healthy, and most importantly, above anything else, continue to be loved. Long live the peace, long live the funk, and more power to you. I'll see you Saturday morning.
Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze god.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color crown they get, they palm it and do 2 circles, and that translates to, I can be the black people.
As she takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, No, Pacific time zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Bass YouTube channel.